Hello, welcome to Veteran Voice. I'm Larry McCullaugh. I'll be your host again today. We've got a staff sergeant with us as our guest today that's an Iraqi veteran, just got back recently, and I know that his wife has been very active taking care of the family needs around back here stateside while he's been over in Iraq, and we're fortunate enough to have him here with us today. Staff Sergeant Doug Bullmer. Doug, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Larry.
I know we've talked about this several times. I'm glad we finally got it all worked out. And first of all, welcome home. It's good to have you back.
It's good to be home.
Well, I know your wife Marty has kept us informed of all the things that you've been going through and the little tribulations that she has to go through while you're away, and that's one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit today. But why don't you start by telling us when you enlisted and where you took your basic at and where you ended up being assigned at?
Well, I enlisted in February 2nd, 2001, and of course I was in the Guard for 6 months prior to shipping to basic training. I was in a kind of a delayed program there. When I did ship, I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. That's where I went to my basic training at, and spent 9 weeks there, and then shipped off to AIT. We went to Fort Bliss, Texas, and that's where I did my AIT at. And that was an interesting place to go to. Kind of got me used to the heat, I guess, which was a good thing. And,
what was your AIT? What was your MOS?
88 Mike, transportation.
Transportation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then from that you were assigned to what, 2113th?
Yes, okay. 2113th.
And then now this is so you actually enlisted before 9/11 happened.
I did. In fact, I was at basic training. I was about 2 weeks from graduation when September 11th happened, and it was quite a thing. They took us into this big room, and we had this 54-inch screen TV in there, and they showed it. They showed it actually on video, and at that time, we're recruits. Learned how to use our weapons, and we were all psyched that we were going to wind up going over there on the first string. And it was quite a thing. We couldn't believe that something like that actually had happened at first. It was kind of a shock, and then a lot of the guys in our basic training in our squad wound up calling home to check with their families, and come to find out it was real. I mean, it was just amazing that something like that could happen on American soil.
Yeah, it was a terrible thing, and I know that patriotism and picked up a lot right after that, and that's when people enlisted. But it's admirable that you had already planned on going in before something like that happened. A lot of people enlisted afterwards because they wanted to stand up for their country, but you were already a few steps ahead of them.
Larry, what stood out to me right after that, the thing that amazed me was driving down the road, you'd see a flag on everybody's front porch hanging. Yeah. And the patriotism, I mean, it was amazing.
And that hadn't been that way for a long time.
No, it hasn't.
And that was the positive thing that came out of it, even though it was a terrible, the worst attack on that this country's ever seen. Now, you were assigned 2113th Transportation. When did you find out that you were going to be activated and be going to Iraq?
Well, the first time was in 2003. We actually got activated, and we went to Fort Campbell and spent 3 or 4 months there mobilizing. We got validated. Validated means that we finished all of our training and we were ready just to get our orders to ship over. And we got stood down when we come home. Then this last time was, it was somewhere around June of '06, and I got about 2 week notice prior to my mobilization. So, they told us 2 weeks prior, and then I wound up going to pre-mob training, and then they sent us to Camp Shelby, so it was kind of a fast track thing. And I believe we left Richmond, Kentucky around July the 30th and headed to Camp Shelby, Mississippi, where we did all of our mobilization training.
It seems to be the point where a lot of people from around here go is to Shelby in Mississippi. I suppose, what does that get you acclimated, or teaches you what you're going to be getting into over there?
It definitely gets you acclimated, and I mean, it's temperature-wise there. You wouldn't want to send somebody to Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, mobilizing to go to Iraq because, of course, temperature there. So you definitely want to put a soldier in a situation where they're going to be as close to the climate that they're going to be living in for the next 12 months as you can, and that's what Camp Shelby is.
Mississippi did that well.
Mm-hmm. And they have a good setup there as far as the training goes for the soldiers to get them used to what circumstances are going to be like over there.
So do they have like little mock areas that you go through where people are dressed up as Iraqi citizens or
Yes,
soldiers
they
or
do.
whatever, and they pull little tricks on you to show you what you're getting ready to go into?
Yes, they do.
They same thing that they did to me years ago when I was going to Vietnam. They'd have these little areas set up as villages or ambushes, and kind of gave you an idea. In a way, it built your confidence, and in a way, it made you think, "Oh my God, am I ready for this?"
Yeah, what did I get myself into?
Yeah, really. Well, when you got over there, what was your first impression when you got off of a plane? I imagine they flew you in. What was what's the first thing that struck you when the doors opened and you stepped out and looked around?
It's hot, but it's not as hot as it's not like here, not humid. You know, that was the first thing I thought. And you know, people always told me when you step off a plane over there, first thing that's going to hit you is the heat and the sand. And the heat definitely hit me, but it was a whole different kind of heat. You know, the climate, it was different. The way that the countryside looked, I mean, it's different than anything you've seen here, unless you've been somewhere like over west towards the desert and all that. I mean, it's just flat land, and you know, it's really hard to explain, but it is different.
One of those things you got to be there. Now, where did y'all stay in tents, or did they have Quonset huts or trailers, or where were you billeted at?
We were billeted, and we stayed in tents at first. I mean, it was like we had cots lined up side by side. That's, you know, while we were going through the training. Now, when we actually got through the training and moved into our actual housing where we were going to be for the next 12 months, it was more set up, you know, where you walked into a bay and you had a bed here, and it was divided by a wall and another bed. You know, you had like 8 by 10 foot areas, and that's what we lived in.
So you had like your little area of operation, your little AO, that had a little bit of privacy.
A little bit of privacy.
Not
Not
a lot,
much.
but-
Of course, you could throw something to the guy over next to you, you know, or they could throw something at you.
Yeah, I had a couple of fellows on some time back, and they talked about they'd take peanut shells when they were eating peanuts, and one of the guys would be in bed, and they'd keep throwing them over the top into his bed, and he'd wake up in the morning and have all these little indents in his face and stuff. I thought,
Well, we never did anything like that.
No, nothing like that, huh?
You had to kill the monotony somehow. You had
Well,
to have
yeah,
some fun.
you know, you got the downtime, and you got the stress time when you're out on the road. Now, I know when I was in Vietnam, the worst thing was being out in the jungle, being infantry, so to speak. But I think that role has completely changed now with the main problems of the IEDs, which are, you know, same booby trap to me. It's just they're a lot more sophisticated than some of the things that I had to worry about in Vietnam. You guys became the primary targets. I mean, just by being a driver or riding in a vehicle. There wasn't not necessarily the guys just going in to sweep towns and stuff are not the only ones in danger. You're in danger just driving down the road on a regular basis.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you see any IEDs that were very close to you, or have any buddies that had any problems?
We actually we didn't actually see them. I mean, they were real good about concealing them, but you know, you'd have a whole convoy roll past one, and then, you know, it hit the last vehicle in the convoy. You know, that happened. We did see them over there, and we were around them when they exploded. And let me tell you, they were a rocky world.
That's, you know, I know that they've traumatic brain injuries are up substantially over there because of those, and they're using such, you know, devastating explosives. And it's like you say, the whole convoy may have driven by, and you're looking up ahead, and all of a sudden finding out something's going off behind you. And like Vietnam, when there was a booby trap, there's nobody there. You know, you're trying to figure out who might have done this, but nobody's where. You don't know the good guys from the bad guys.
Oh, they use so many different methods of triggering them. I mean, they may be there, they may not be there. Maybe command wire detonated. It might be remote detonated. You never know. I mean, they're very sophisticated people, and they have learned to adapt to our SOPs, the way we do things, and they're always constantly adjusting the fire towards us. So, you know, it's something that we're having to contend with over there.
So you're learning as you go. You're finding out that some things that worked maybe 2 years ago are not as effective as they are now.
You have to constantly shift the way you do things.
I guess it's that way in any kind of a war. The tactics are going to change, and you have to adjust to them and keep up with what the enemy's doing.
Absolutely.
Did you have a lot of contact with civilians along the way when you were doing convoys and stuff, or?
Periodically we did. Mainly we had civilians that worked on the FOBs. I mean, they work in different areas like, your chow halls, your PX areas. We had bazaars there, little shopping malls that the Iraqi civilians ran. And we dealt with them on a pretty regular basis.
So then I would imagine that they were polite and well-mannered and treated you right. Of course, are they being employed by the Department of Defense or the government to run these places, or are they like a private enterprise?
I think they're contracted. I'm not really sure how that works, to be honest with you, but I'm sure that it has a lot to do with the politics on post as far as who comes in, who doesn't, and who operates and who doesn't.
How many guys did you go over with? I mean, how many fellows were in, say, the group that went over with you that you actually knew?
That I actually knew? Well, being the job that I'm doing, the recruit sustainment program, I know a lot of them from around the state because I had dealt with them at units. A lot of them were reps that actually drilled under me that I was responsible for in my training. And I knew a lot more than a lot of people just coming out of Paducah knew. But we went over with approximately, I'd say about 60 people from Kentucky area. Of course, we volunteered to go over and support Mississippi unit that was short-handed on personnel. So we went over and we got into that unit basically, and we had people from Indiana that came into that unit to support them, and then we all went over to Iraq together.
Now, did you pretty much stay together once you got there as a unit, or did they scatter them out to different places?
Well, they took select individuals that they needed in other areas and sent them to other posts, but for the most part, the majority of us, we did stay together. We stayed in the same little area there.
So it was like a band of brothers type thing. Everybody knew everybody, and you were covering each other. You were doing it for your buddy, and that's the camaraderie got built that way, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you do anything for one of your brothers, sisters, and do anything in the world to protect them, help them, whatever they need. But we stayed together. We ran a lot together. I mean, we ran missions together. They'd mix us up, and primarily it was ran by a squad, for instance. But a lot of times we did mix up personnel and add extra trucks in from Indiana or from Mississippi. So we all ran together, and we all knew each other pretty well.
Now, what kind of stuff were you transporting, and how far would you transport it? How much time would it take? Just pick up a particular mission if you can, or just.
We hauled everything from small cardboard boxes to T-88 tanks, tank haulers, tank towers, basically. We hauled M1 Abrams, we hauled Strykers, we hauled Bradleys, we hauled it all. We hauled Porta-Johns. I mean, just whatever.
Whatever they needed someplace
else.
We
haul.
They call you haul?
Yeah, we ran missions that varied for anywhere from an hour to 6 days.
Really?
And I think the longest mission we were on was about 2 weeks.
Now, when you were on a mission, like a 2-week mission like that, when it got to be nighttime, I presume you traveled in the daytime and stopped at night?
No, just the opposite.
Rolled at night and then stopped in the daytime. Mm-hmm. Is that because of the temperature or just a variety of reasons?
A variety of reasons. Temperature probably being one of the major reasons. And of course at night you have more concealment, and you can run a mission and get there and get it completed, with less obstacles in the way. Traffic, civilians. I mean, it was crazy. There's a lot of times that we ran until daylight in the morning time. You'd see cars lined up miles, people walking out the road, and it's better running at night. They have a curfew, so it makes it easier on us.
Now, when you did stop in the daytime to rest, did you set up was there a forward camp that you would go to, or did you just set up your own little bivouac area? Or
we always settled in a fob.
Did you?
We would go from one post to another, and if mission wasn't complete by a designated time, that we would stop in at the nearest post we could find, and that's where we would rest overnight.
And then get started when sun starts going down, you get ready to take off again then. Mm-hmm. Man. Now, talk about the equipment. Did you take very much equipment with you, or as far as the trucks and stuff, or was a lot of it already there when you arrived?
No, we received equipment that was already there from the company that we replaced, and that's what we took over when we came in. We just signed over everything to us.
And how about the condition of the stuff? Were you able to keep it going? I mean, was it new equipment or is it old equipment because that's what all the National Guard units had and took over there? Or what kind of stuff y'all dealing with over there? Is it? I mean, I would imagine in that environment, it's tough just to keep the stuff running. I would think with all the dirt and the sand and the wind and everything.
Oh, we were constantly, every time we went out to our trucks, we were having to do PMCS, pre-maintenance checks, preventive maintenance checks. I'm sorry, and the trucks were, of course, 4 or 5 years old over in the desert. They got ran hard. We took good care of them and kept them running. Didn't have a whole lot of problems out of them. I mean,
were spare parts a problem? Were they able to? Did you have an inventory that you kept of parts with you, or did you just call, let somebody know what you needed? And
we had a supply that we went through there, and our supply people would order the parts, and we had our own maintenance team that was with our company from Mississippi that handled taking care of putting that stuff on for us.
So you had a lot of mechanics that were just they had a full-time job just keeping everything running, besides doing the preventative maintenance like the oil changes and tires and all that kind of stuff.
We did the actual PMCSs on the vehicles.
Oh, did you?
We did the checks. We were responsible for our vehicle. Anything that was wrong with it, we had to document it, turn it in, get the parts ordered, get it repaired. So
that's where your training earlier had come in, is learning how to work on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I really didn't know a thing about a HET when I left Kentucky. I on 915s, which is like a regular semi, and if you've ever seen a HET, heavy equipment transport, you know what I mean. These things are so big. You'd stand next to one, Larry, I don't know if you'd be taller than a tire.
I probably wouldn't be. I'm built pretty close to the ground.
Yeah, these things are huge, and they got to be 48 tires on those suckers. I mean, they're
48 tires.
48 tires. Well, you're hauling some heavy equipment on there. You're hauling a 70,000-ton vehicle on there. You got to have a lot of cushion underneath it.
My gosh, I don't know that I may have seen them on television on the news reports and stuff, but I don't think I've ever seen one up close.
All you got to do is, if you ever get online, is just type in HET. I mean,
really?
Yeah, you probably type in HET and then space Army and look it up and see what one looks like. But these things are monsters. We got 40 tires on the back, and you change them on a regular basis.
Oh man,
it's a lot of fun.
So if you see a little old lady on the side of the road with a Nissan or something, it won't be nothing to help change her tire.
Oh, heck no. I'd probably just walk over and lift it up for her and say, okay.
Unscrew the lug nuts.
No, we had a lot of fun working on them at times. I know one night we took our whole entire squad, which we actually had about 13 people in it, went out there and we had 8 tires on the tractor. Now the HET tractor has a 500-pound tire on it. Imagine how big this thing is. We took all 8 tires off in an hour and a half and had them changed out. Now, there's a lot involved in taking them off. You got to jack up the subframe, and then you got to get under there and you got to take the CTIS, which is the inflation system cover, off, and then you got to take all the lug nuts off, CTIS hoses off, and then you got to get under there and you got to pull that tire off, and then you got to go over and get the spare tire and put it on. And that's a whole different story, because you got to use a davit to take it and raise it up after you get the lug nuts off, drop it down to the ground, roll it around, and then put it on. And we did that all in an hour and a half time.
Would y'all just kind of challenge yourself to let's see how fast we could knock this thing out?
We do. It was competitive. It was a real competitive world over there. We were always trying to see who could beat
everybody outdo each other. Yeah, but that's, again, the camaraderie. That's the thing that I remember from Vietnam, is you get so close to people when you live with them for a year, and you're covering each other, you're working together, and it's like a family. You're going to have your little family spats from time to time, but everybody knows that, hey, when it hits the fan, I'm covering you, and I know you're covering me. And those are kind of bonds that you build that anyone who hadn't been in that situation will never understand.
Yep.
Now, I know that communication, I compare a lot of what, my experience in Vietnam to what y'all are doing now, just because of the differences. When I was there, we had the snail mail, and that was when it came in, you were always glad. Now, y'all, did you have cell phones? Did you have computers and stuff that you could actually communicate directly with the families back here?
We did. We had access to MWRs there, where we could, go and use computers and email home, see the family on the video chats and all that. You could buy cell phones over there, which is something different. It's changed over the years. You can get cell phone service there, and you can call your families on that now. It's pretty reasonable. I mean, it's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be.
But at least you could communicate with the family
Yeah.
while you're over there.
Cell phone coverage wasn't the best in the world, but you could get on there and give the family a call and talk to them for a few minutes before you got disconnected. At least let them know you're okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was important to them too, to know that at least we're usually trying to reassure them, hey, everything's going to be okay. I only got so far to go, and I'm doing my job, and got good people with me.
Well, when we were back at the FOB, we could call and talk to our families. You have OPSEC, Operation Security. You really didn't want to put out a lot of information on the phone. I'm getting ready to go out.
Okay,
You didn't want to do that. You didn't want to tip the enemy off that you were getting ready to roll out the gate, of course, because they'd be waiting for you. So, but we got to call home and tell our families we were okay. That was my thing. If I rolled into a FOB, I'd call my wife and say, "Hey, babe, I'm here, and if you need to call me. Everything's all right."
That had to be reassuring to her too, because I know that when they activated all the Guard and Reserve units, that a lot of times or at least I always thought National Guard was there to, they're going to help when the floods and the blizzards and tornadoes and hurricanes hit. And when I heard that they were activating them, I thought it concerned me, because for two reasons. Number one, people that I would hope would be here for us were going to be overseas, and I thought a lot of these guys are doing, if you'll excuse the expression, we called you weekend warriors back then. Obviously, my perspective on the National Guard has completely changed in the last 5 years. Used to be it was just the weekend warrior thing, but now all you guys have stepped up to the plate. You volunteered, you went and did your job. I know it's been very costly for a lot of fellows to maybe didn't get their job when they came back. It created a terrible financial hardship on a lot of families, I'm sure, not to mention just being gone that long and then trying to come back and get reacclimated to get back, because it's a different world over there for a year, and then you come back here and you try to get back into the routine, and it feels like you're a little out of wobble sometimes. You can't quite get things going. How are you doing with that? I know when you first came back, you said, "Man, this is great." You say you're having a hard time adapting first to the temperature. You got your jacket on in here under these lights, and you're comfortable though.
It's hard to acclimate and get used to it. I mean, there's so many differences here. I've been living for a year in an environment, like I said, that's totally different than anything I've ever been in before, and I got used to it. The jet lag hangs on for a while.
Yeah.
Because right now it's 9 hours. What about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning over there, and time frame's completely different. Of course, it takes a lot of getting used to.
Well, I imagine, yeah.
It takes the family a lot to get used to me too, because
Well,
I've
yeah.
been used to being over a group of soldiers, and it's a whole different.
Well, that's
situation.
normal. I mean, when I came back from Vietnam, when I would talk to people after I'd had time to let it sink in, I used to go to the high schools in the 80s and talk to the kids, and I told them Vietnam to the guys that were there, it wasn't a war or a country, it was a way of life. Mm-hmm. It's the way that you lived for a year, and then when you came back, it was really unusual, because I had somebody telling me what to do all the time. I used to joke and say, "Man, I stayed drunk for 4 days because there wasn't a sergeant there to tell me to sober up," which obviously I didn't do, but I thought about it when I came back. But it was a way of life over there for you, wasn't it?
It was.
And I know you came back. You're glad to see your family. I know we worry. I pray for you guys every night, because you never know what's going to go on over there, and it can change just like that. I'm sure you know that too.
Oh, it does. It really does. Coming home, the hardest thing to adapt to, really, like you said, is getting used to the family. Getting used to the wife telling you need to do it this way, you need to do it that way. Getting used to the kids, hollering, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, I want to go to the park." I didn't have a park for a year. I didn't. Things were completely different for me.
Yeah.
My job was ensuring that myself and my soldiers stayed alive. Ensuring that our equipment was up to par, our weapons were operating, our trucks were operating. And then I come home and it's just. Everything's so laid back. I can hop in the car and drive to Walmart, walk around Walmart. It wasn't like that over there for a year.
So it does take time.
It does.
You did the one tour for a year then, huh?
I did a tour for a year.
And now you're going to be stationed. Where was it? You told me a little while ago.
I'll be working out of the Benton, Kentucky Armory.
Okay.
That's where my job will be taken over at.
So do you think there's a chance you might be activated again, or you just, for the time being, you just take it as it comes, I guess?
I'll tell you, like I tell every recruit, every rep that walks through my door, you're in the National Guard, you just do whatever Uncle Sam tells you got to do.
You go where you're told to go.
When you get the call, you might as well be ready to go.
That's right. It's not a negotiation.
Exactly.
That's great. Doug, we're down to about the last 2 or 3 minutes, and I want to make sure that if you've got something that you wanted to tell the folks or a story that you wanted to relate, I didn't want to get finished with the time and have you think, man, I wish I would have said that. Is there anything that stands out in your mind or anything you'd like to say to the viewers that are out there watching today?
Well, I would like to say, I appreciate everything people are doing for the soldiers over in Iraq. We've gotten a lot of care packages, and that means a lot to us. And, if there's one soldier that has a family that's sending them a lot of stuff, there's another soldier over here that hasn't got anything. And, it really does mean a lot.
So, like, when you get that stuff in, does everybody pretty much share it all around?
We do.
Yeah.
You got a box in, it usually wasn't a box full of one certain thing. It was scattered full of stuff, and if you didn't need this, next guy needed it. So, anything and everything really helps out.
Well, good. So they should keep sending those care packages.
Absolutely.
Good. How about the phone cards? Did those come in handy? I know that the VFW is real strong in providing phone cards for the fellows over there.
Phone cards are great. Phone cards are great. I mean, just anything. Like I said, anything comes in handy over there. There's a lot of guys that, they don't have the opportunity to drive down to Walmart and pick them up something. They don't have somebody they can call home to send them something over. And, when they get those packages, it means a lot to the soldier.
Yeah. I know when I used to get my father worked at a bank, and every week all the ladies would bring in fudge and cookies and cupcakes. And by the time it got to us, it was just one big mess of chocolate and sugar. But we didn't care. Everybody was, hey, McCullaugh got a package, let's go. And, all of a sudden I was the most popular hooch. And 19-year-old kids, we'd sit there and gorge ourselves till we were sick to our stomachs. But, man, we loved those packages from home.
Well, I'm not going to say we didn't do that ourselves. I mean, you got the occasional pack of Oreos in, or, that was a treat. Because, like I said, we didn't have that advantage. We couldn't just drive down to the store and pick up what we wanted. It wasn't like that. But I do appreciate all the pats on the back, and it's good to be home, and people have been really, really supportive of us. It means a lot.
Doug, I appreciate you coming on the show today to share this stuff with us. Again, welcome home. I'm really proud of you and all your comrades and your buddies that do that, and I hope that the people will continue to support the troops. I stay away from the politics of the war. Nothing I can do about that. But I do know that the men and women that are over there fighting need the support of the American people, and that's the most important thing, is to take care of you guys and gals when you come back and make sure that you're appreciated and told that you did a great job, and we do appreciate you. So welcome home, my friend.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks for coming out and being on the program today. And we'll get together sometime. I know that you got to take care of Mama some. She got some surgery she went through, so at least she's got you to take care of her now. But we're going to sign off for right now. We'll get together in the next couple of weeks anyway. We want to thank you all for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time on Veteran Voice.